You don't lose her because of your age. You lose her the moment you forget how attraction really works. Listen carefully, because this is where many older men misunderstand younger women, and it quietly ruins their chances before anything truly starts. Younger women are not turned off by time itself, they are turned off by drained energy. And the first habit that destroys attraction faster than anything else is when a man turns his age into his entire identity. I'm talking about the small, almost invisible ways you announce that you're older before she ever asks. You mention your age like it's an apology. You joke about always being tired. You compare yourself to younger men as if you're already behind. You talk about how things were better years ago. And in that moment, she doesn't see wisdom, she sees surrender. Younger women crave presence, liveliness, direction. When you lead with nostalgia, you tell her your best days are over. And attraction never grows towards someone who sounds like they've stopped becoming. Here's a truth most men never hear. Confidence doesn't come from pretending you're young. It comes from being fully grounded in who you are right now. When you downplay your energy or frame yourself as past your peak, you quietly push her into the role of emotional caretaker. And desire cannot exist where responsibility replaces curiosity. Another habit that slowly eats away at attraction is over explaining yourself. You think you're being open and honest. She feels like you're asking for approval. Younger women are drawn to men who move with inner certainty. When you explain every choice, every boundary, every preference, you communicate hesitation, even if your words sound reasonable. And hesitation is tiring to be around. There's also the habit of chasing validation through generosity. Buying too much, giving too quickly, always offering help, always paying, always accommodating. You tell yourself you're being kind, mature, and stable. But from her side, it feels heavy, like pressure, like a silent agreement she never signed. Attraction needs room to breathe. When you crowd it with effort, it suffocates. Let me say this clearly and without cruelty. Younger women are not trying to be impressed by your resources. They are intrigued by your restraint. When you show that you don't need approval, you become attractive. When you give just to receive, the spark fades. Another quiet attraction killer is trying to teach instead of connect. Experience can be attractive, but only when it's invited. When you correct her too often, lecture her, or position yourself as the one who knows better, you drain the playfulness from the interaction. Attraction grows through shared discovery, not instruction. Then there's emotional heaviness, bringing old heartbreaks, divorces, regrets, and bitterness into early conversations. You may call it honesty. She feels it as weight. Younger women aren't afraid of depth, but they avoid unresolved pain. They want to feel possibility, not inherit emotional baggage. Here's the part that hurts the most. None of these habits come from bad intentions. They come from fear. Fear of being replaced, fear of aging, fear of not being enough anymore. And fear, no matter how well hidden, always leaks out. When you release the need to prove, explain, or defend your worth, something changes. You stop performing, you start existing, and that's when attraction begins. Quietly, strongly, without force. Because the men younger women are drawn to are not trying to convince anyone of their value. They move like they already understand it. There's another mistake older men make that younger women rarely forget, and it's more damaging than saying the wrong thing. It's trying to borrow youth instead of owning maturity. You see it in how a man changes his voice, his slang, his opinions. He copies her taste too fast. He pretends to care about trends he doesn't actually like. He reshapes himself to seem current, and the moment he does that, attraction slowly collapses. Not because he's older, but because he's no longer real. Younger women are extremely sensitive to authenticity. They can feel when a man is at ease with himself and when he's acting. When you chase youth, you signal insecurity. You tell her without saying it that you don't trust your depth to be enough. Here's the hard truth. Maturity is attractive only when it stands firm. The moment you water it down to fit in, you lose the very thing that made you stand out. Another habit that kills attraction is speaking badly about younger men, criticizing their immaturity, mocking their lack of discipline, comparing yourself to them out loud. You think you're lifting yourself up. She hears resentment. When you compete with men she never mentioned, you expose fear, and fear shrinks you in her eyes. A steady man doesn't need comparisons. He knows where he stands. He walks his path calmly. And that calm strength is what younger women feel drawn to, even if they can't explain it. Then there's control disguised as protection. Older men sometimes assume they know what's best. They warn too much, advise too soon, subtly restrict. You may call it care. She experiences it as confinement. Younger women value freedom deeply. The moment they feel guided instead of met, attraction shuts down, not loudly, quietly, and often for good. Attraction isn't about being right, it's about being safe and expansive at the same time. When a woman feels she can grow around you instead of shrinking, desire deepens. Another subtle habit is emotional overavailability. Always replying instantly, always agreeing, always adjusting your plans, always being reachable. Reliability matters, but mystery matters too. When you remove all tension, all contrast, all polarity, the connection becomes flat. Attraction needs space. It needs to feel that you have a life, a rhythm, a purpose that doesn't revolve around her. Younger women don't want to be your center. They want to step into your world, not become responsible for it. Let's talk about approval-seeking humor, making jokes about your age, your looks, being too old for this. You think you're easing the moment. What you're really doing is shaping her perception of you. Never shrink yourself to make someone comfortable. Comfort without respect leads nowhere. And perhaps the most damaging habit of all is urgency, rushing closeness, pushing commitment, trying to lock things in quickly because you're afraid of losing her to time or options. Urgency feels like pressure. Pressure kills desire. Attraction grows through patience, restraint, and grounded presence. When you're not trying to secure her, but allowing her to experience you. Here's what younger women respond to on a deep level: a man with nothing to prove, nothing to hide, and nothing to rush. Age only becomes a problem when you treat it like one. There is one habit so subtle most men never notice it, yet younger women feel it immediately. It's when an older man confuses interest with entitlement. He believes that because he's experienced, stable, or generous, attraction should follow automatically. And the moment that belief settles in, his energy shifts from inviting to expecting, not through words, but through tone, posture, and assumption. Younger women are extremely sensitive to entitlement. They don't resist authority, they pull away from obligation. The second she feels your kindness has strings, attraction drains. This shows up when you keep quiet score, when you mention what you've done for her, when disappointment slips out because she didn't react how you hoped, when your patience has limits you never spoke aloud. You may think you're being reasonable. She feels controlled. Real confidence gives freely and lets go cleanly. The moment you need a return on emotional effort, the connection becomes a transaction, and attraction does not survive transactions. Another habit that weakens attraction is living too much in the past. Not remembering, but identifying. You talk about who you were instead of who you're becoming. Old wins, old titles, old stories that no longer require courage. Younger women respect history, but they are drawn to momentum. They want to feel that your life is still moving forward, that you're still curious, still growing, still open. When your stories end with I used to, you place yourself behind glass, admired but untouchable. There's also emotional guarding disguised as wisdom, always calm, always measured, always controlled. You think restraint makes you powerful. Sometimes it just makes you distant. Younger women don't want chaos, but they do want access. They want to feel your excitement, your passion, your conviction. When everything about you feels safe but muted, attraction has nothing to hold on to. Then comes the savior mindset, trying to fix her problems, solve her life, guide her choices, protect her from mistakes. You think you're adding value. She feels underestimated. Younger women want partnership, not supervision. The moment care turns into correction, polarity disappears. Desire cannot flow towards someone who treats you like a task. Another attraction killer is neglecting your physical presence, not aging, but abandoning your body. Slouched posture, low energy, slow movements, dull eye contact. Attraction is felt before it's understood. Your body speaks before your words do. When you move with intention, when you take up space calmly, when your presence feels grounded, age fades into the background. When your body looks tired of life, attraction fades with it. At the end of the day, younger women aren't searching for youth. They're responding to vitality, direction, and self respect. When you stop fighting time and start embodying yourself fully, attraction stops feeling like something you have to earn. It becomes something that naturally follows. Your health, your vitality, your physical and inner aliveness. Younger women read the body long before they hear the words you speak. They notice how you move, how you stand, how you carry yourself into a room, how you inhabit space without trying to take it over or disappear inside it. You don't need to look young, you need to look alive. Energy is visible. It leaks through posture, breath, eye contact, and pace. When your body reflects discipline, care, and self respect, your age slowly becomes less important and then almost irrelevant. A man who looks present in his own skin sends a message without trying, and that message lands deeper than compliments or clever talk ever could. And then there's the habit of emotional predictability, always reacting the same way, always agreeable, always available, always softening your edges so nothing feels uncomfortable. You think consistency builds safety, and it does, but only up to a point. Without contrast, without tension, safety quietly turns into boredom. Attraction lives in balance, warmth and restraint, openness and mystery, strength and softness. When one side disappears, desire slowly fades. Comfort without polarity feels flat, and flat energy doesn't invite longing. Here's the truth that shifts everything when you finally see it clearly. Younger women aren't attracted to age, status, money, or effort alone. They're attracted to presence, to a man who feels grounded, alive, self directed, and emotionally real without needing anything from them. The moment you release entitlement and stop trying to earn attraction, the moment you step fully into your own becoming, attraction no longer needs to be chased. It recognizes you. It responds to what you embody, not what you promise. There is one habit that almost guarantees attraction will fade, no matter how strong it once felt, no matter how good things seemed at the beginning, and it's the need to be understood. Older men often carry this quiet hunger to explain themselves, to make sure she truly sees their intentions, their sacrifices, their depth, their reasoning. They want to be known, validated, acknowledged, and the more you try to be understood, the less attractive you become. Because attraction doesn't grow through explanation, it grows through experience. It grows through how it feels to be around you, not how well you clarify your inner logic. When you narrate your values instead of living them, when you explain your motives instead of letting your actions speak, you pull her out of feeling and into analysis. Younger women don't fall for your logic. They fall for how they feel in your presence. And feelings don't need footnotes. They don't need speeches. They don't need justification. This need to be understood often shows up as defensiveness. You correct misinterpretations. You justify your reactions. You clarify what you meant instead of letting silence do the work. You may believe you're protecting the connection. What you're actually doing is breaking tension, the very thing that fuels desire. Attraction needs a little unresolved space to breathe. When everything is explained, nothing is felt. Then there's emotional dependence disguised as closeness, wanting constant reassurance, asking where you stand too often, seeking confirmation that she still feels something, that nothing has changed, that you're still wanted. You call it communication. She experiences it as pressure. Attraction needs air. The moment it has to perform on command, it starts to shrink. The moment it has to reassure instead of respond naturally, it loses its rhythm. Another habit that quietly kills desire is oversharing your inner world too early. Your fears, your doubts, your loneliness, your regrets. Vulnerability is powerful when it's anchored in self-trust. When it's not, it feels like emotional leakage. Younger women want to witness your openness, but they don't want to feel responsible for stabilizing it. Strength isn't silence. Strength is knowing when and how to open and when to hold your center without collapsing into disclosure. There's also the habit of minimizing your own boundaries to avoid conflict. You tolerate behaviors that bother you. You stay quiet to keep the peace. You tell yourself you're being mature, flexible, evolved. In reality, you're slowly erasing yourself. And nothing kills attraction faster than a man who disappears just to be liked. Boundaries are not walls. They're signals of self-respect. When you hold them calmly, without anger, without apology, you create safety and polarity at the same time. You show that you know where you end and where others begin. Another silent killer is emotional flatness. Always calm, always reasonable, always controlled. You think you're being stable. She feels like she's talking to a surface. Younger women are drawn to emotional range, passion, humor, conviction, stillness, intensity. When your emotions never fluctuate, connection has nowhere to deepen. Depth comes from contrast, from being human, not perfectly managed. And let's talk about attention imbalance. When your focus becomes too available, too constant, too predictable, attraction loses contrast. Desire thrives on rhythm, presence and absence, engagement and space. When you give everything at once, there's nothing left to anticipate, nothing left to lean into. Mystery isn't about hiding, it's about not over-offering yourself. Here's something most men never hear clearly. Attraction is not about effort, it's about self-containment, the ability to be fully present without needing anything in return, the ability to enjoy connection without clinging to it. Younger women don't pull away because men are older. They pull away because they feel needed instead of chosen. Need drains desire. Choice ignites it. When you stop trying to secure meaning, clarity, or reassurance and simply stand in who you are, something shifts. Your energy becomes grounded. Your presence becomes felt. Your words carry weight without explanation, and that's when attraction doesn't need to be maintained. It sustains itself naturally. The final habit that kills attraction is the one most men never see in themselves because it feels like wisdom. It's the habit of settling internally while pretending to stay engaged. Your life looks stable. Your routine works. You've learned how to manage disappointment, but somewhere along the way, you stop demanding more from yourself. Younger women feel this instantly, not consciously, but energetically. They sense when a man is no longer stretching, no longer risking, no longer stepping into uncertainty.